I'm sorry for your loss.
If I'd stayed in prison, they'd have taken him from me. He'd now be alive. Maybe this is God's way of saying I'm not fit to be a mother yet. Carrying on like I do. Cursing, drinking, fighting.
You are a fighter, aye. In prison, I heard stories of the infamous Anne Bonny and Mary Read taking on the King's Navy together. Just the pair of you.
It's all true. Anne would have won that day if Jack and his lads weren't passed out in the hold from drink. Edward. Everyone's gone, aren't they? Mary, Raccoon, Touch, all the rest. I miss them so. Rough as they were. Do you feel that too? All empty inside?
I do. Devil curse me. I do.
Edward Kenway is one of the most beloved assassins to ever live in the Assassin's Creed series. He is so charismatic, witty, and ready to do battle. After all, he is a pirate. His story is one full of riches and glory, but also one of tragedy and loss. With Ubisoft deciding to set this story during the Golden Age of Piracy in the Caribbean, I couldn't help but think of this as brilliant. This was a perfect age for Ubisoft to tell an Assassin's Creed tale, one full of dangers, riches, glory, and debauchery. There are many stories that romanticize the idea or notion of being a pirate and living like free men, being able to take all they can see and sailing at sea. Now we get to experience this tale firsthand from the perspective of one Edward James Kenway, father to Haytham and grandfather to Connor. When we first meet Edward, he's already a pirate serving on a ship that is under attack by another ship. Their captain is dead and Edward does his best to take command, but ultimately the ship gets blown up and Edward gets thrown overboard. The game slowly introduces us to flashbacks of Edward's life before he became a pirate. Here we see Edward with his wife Caroline, and early on we can see Edward's goals and ambitions that ultimately turned him into a pirate. Edward then wakes up and swims towards a nearby island, finding that another survivor has washed ashore with him. Edward gives chase to the stranger, ultimately killing him and presuming his identity as Duncan Walpole, after finding a letter written to Walpole to go to Cuba to deliver the package in his possession for a reward. Edward doesn't think it over since this would be an easy scam for him, but he would need a ship to get him off this island. Luckily for him, there's an Englishman on the island in need of saving who happens to own a small ship.
By God's grace, sir, you saved me. A profusion of thanks.
Is that yours?
It is my vessel, yes. So here lies its poor captain, and I have no art for sailing.
I can pilot her myself, no mind.
You don't mean to abscond with my ship, do you?
I'm Duncan. What's your name, friend?
Steed Bonnet.
Well, Mr. Bonnet, let this stay twixt us. But I'm on a secret errand for His Majesty the King, God save him, and I must get to Havana with speed.
Ah, that is a relief, sir. Havana is also my destination. Our ways lie together.
Natural allies, then.
Ah, you put me at ease, sir. To think I took you for a pirate when you first appeared.
Did you?
Yes. You have uncommon way of handling yourself. Quick and easy, if I may say. Gave me quite a fright. But all things considered, I think it's turned out to be a rather fortuitous day, hasn't it?
Just with the introduction of the game, you can already tell what kind of man Edward is at this point of his life. He wants to become rich and he'll do whatever it takes to satisfy that desire. When Edward and Steed Bonnet get to Havana, you can clearly see he does not care about Steed or his problems. He just wants to go and meet with the governor to collect his payment. Later on, Edward goes to meet with the governor and continue his ruse of being Duncan Walpole. Edward lies his way in and starts learning about the Templar Order for the first time and what their plans are. Edward gets sworn in as a Templar and is told about the plans for finding the location of the Observatory in the Caribbean.
Decades ago, the Council entrusted me with the task of locating in these West Indies a forgotten place our precursors once called the Observatory. See here. Look up on these images and commit them to memory. They tell a very old and important story. For 2 decades now, I have endeavored to locate this observatory, a place rumored to contain a tool of incredible utility and power. It houses a kind of armillary sphere, if you like. A device that would grant us the power to locate and monitor every man and woman on Earth, whatever their location. Only imagine what it would mean to have such a power. With this device, there would be no secrets among men, no lies, no trickery. Only justice, pure justice. This is the Observatory's promise, and we must take it for our own.
When Edward learns the Observatory is an ancient artifact that can see anyone around the world, he makes it his plan to find it first and sell it to the highest bidder, since the information it could give would be more valuable than gold. So Edward would stick around with the Templars for a while to learn everything they know about the Observatory before deciding to double-cross them. The next day, Edward would help the Templars transport a man named Bartholomew Roberts, who they called the Sage, since he was the only man that knew the location of the Observatory and how to open it. While they were transporting the Sage, they would be ambushed by the assassins and the Sage would escape from their custody. Edward gave chase after the Sage, running after him through the city until he caught him. Having all the information he needed, Edward would decide now is the perfect time to double-cross the Templars and get the Sage to show him where the Observatory was. When Edward made his way through to the prison where the Sage was being held, he would discover bodies and that the Sage already managed to escape. Unfortunately for Edward, the Templars were waiting for him, knowing that he was not the real Duncan Walpole.
Basta ya! What is your true name, rogue?
It's, Captain Pissoff.
Bien qu'un pauvre paysan. Where is the Sage? Did you set him free?
I had nothing to do with that. Much as I wish I did.
Take him to the ports. Send him to Sevilla with the treasure plate.
Oh, wait now! I delivered your treasures, didn't I?
You did, yes. But you robbed us of Duncan Walpole.
Edward was then imprisoned and stowed away on a ship. There, he would meet Adewale, and they would work together to free other prisoners before making a daring escape on a stolen ship during a fierce storm. Once they had escaped, Edward would decide to rename the ship the Jackdaw, with Adewale as quartermaster. They would make their way towards Nassau and meet up with Edward's fellow pirate allies. There, Edward would explain to them that they needed to find the Observatory.
Now you'll want to sail somewhere rich with plunder.
Have you heard of a place called the Observatory?
Aye. It's an old legend, like El Dorado or the Fountain of Youth.
What have you heard?
It's meant to be a temple or a tomb, hiding a treasure of some kind.
That's it. See here.
Oh, rot. It's fairy stories you prefer to gold, is it?
It's worth more than gold, Thatch. 10,000 times above what we could pull off any Spanish ship.
Robbing the king to pay his porpoise is how we earn our keep here, lad. It ain't a fortune. It's a fantasy.
With the majority of his allies dismissing the Observatory as nothing more of a fantasy, they instead asked Edward to work with them in stealing from ships, taking gold, and killing for several years. Edward was still fixated on finding the Observatory and becoming rich beyond his wildest dreams. Throughout one of these missions, Edward stumbles upon a Templar on a secret island who knows who he is, so Edward kills him, so that he can't warn the others that he's still alive. One of his allies, James Kidd, congratulates Edward and tells him to meet him in Tulum in a few weeks to show him something there. When Edward gets there, he finds the island is full of assassins and slowly makes his way to the middle of the island to meet with Kidd, only to be confronted by Tabai, the mentor of the Assassin Brotherhood in the Caribbean.
Captain Kenway? What is the assassin Duncan Walpole?
Dead and buried. After he tried to kill me.
We are not sorry to see him gone, but it was you who carried out his final betrayal. Why?
Money was my only aim.
Should I find comfort in that? You murdered our brothers and sisters in Havana.
He has the sense, mentor.
James tells me you traded with the Templars there. Did you see the man they called the Sage?
Aye,
Would you recognize his face if you saw it again?
I reckon so.
I must be certain.
Edward and Kidd make their way into a cave where there's a secret temple and a statue which looks exactly like Robert's. After leaving the cave, they discover that the island is under siege by the Templars. Edward would help in taking it back and freed as many assassins and members of his crew as he could. Much later, Edward will learn that Governor Torres had located the Sage, but was currently in a fort. Edward and his crew sailed towards the fort and proceeded to capture it and take Torres and his gold that he was going to pay for the Sage. Edward now knew that the Sage was in Kingston and planned to use Torres and his gold gold to get the sage from Lawrence Prince, the slave master that had him. Unfortunately, Edward's plans fail when Kid intervenes with both Prince and Taurus escaping. Edward and James decide to work together to kill Prince in his estate. There it is revealed to both Edward and the player that James is actually a woman named Mary Reed. Edward is successful in killing Prince, but is surprised by Roberts.
Heads up, Kenway! I found your man!
I remember you. The Templar from Havana.
I'm no Templar, mate. That was just a ruse. We've come here to save your ass from this slaver.
Save me? I work for Mr. Prince.
Well, then he's a poor man to call master. He meant to sell you out to the Templars.
Oh, you can't trust anyone, it seems.
Roberts!
The sage would escape again and would not be seen for a long time. Edward went back to working with his pirate allies again, but the Templars would come back towards Nassau and threaten their pirate republic with a blockade. Edward, along with some pirates, proposed to leave Nassau by breaking through the blockade. After successfully breaking through the blockade and knowing that Nassau was no more, Edward's friends and ally Edward Thatch, known infamously as Blackbeard, decides it's time to retire. Edward decides to go to his retirement party, where Thatch informs him of the sage's location. Unfortunately, the party is cut short when they are bombarded by the British. Edward and his crew alongside Blackbeard tried to escape the British, but were caught in the crossfire and were quickly overwhelmed.
In a world without gold, we might have been heroes!
The loss of Blackbeard deeply impacted Edward. This event would be the beginning in a long chain of events that would change him forever. But despite the loss of a dear friend, Edward would go to the last known location of the sage, which was aboard a slave ship called the Princess. Unfortunately, along the way, the crew put up a mutiny and put Edward on a deserted island. After escaping the island, Edward met up with Kid and Adewale to learn about the princess going to Kingston. Edward then sets sail towards Kingston, but sees that his old friend and ally Benjamin Hornigold is now working with the Templars.
Edward Kenway! Imagine my surprise at seeing your jackdaw anchored there. Have you heard all you came to hear? Will you now rescue the sage from our clutching hands?
A pox on you, traitor! You sold us downriver.
Because I found a better path. The Templars know order, discipline, structure. But you never could fathom these subtleties. Goodbye, old friend. You were a soldier once, when you fought for something real. Something beyond yourself.
Now knowing the location of the sage, Edward sails to Principe to find him, but he finds that the place is crawling with Templars. Edward makes quick work of the Templars and frees the sage and his men. With Robert seeing there's no way of escaping the Templars, he decides to fight back and becomes the infamous Black Bart. Edward and Roberts work together for a time before Roberts finally decides to show Edward where the Observatory is. But the bad news for Edward is that he's been tracked by Hornigold and the Templars. In order to get the location to his most prized possession, Edward knows that he has to kill his old friend.
You could have been a man who stood for something. But you've a killer's heart now. With nothing but metal to show for all your blunders.
Damn sight better than you, Ben. The heart of a traitor who thinks himself better than his mates.
Aye, and proven true. What have you done since Nassau fell, huh? Nothing but murder and mayhem.
You threw in with the very kind we once hated!
No! These Templars are different. I wish you could see that. But if you continue on your present course, you'll find you're the only one walking it. With the gallows at its end.
It may be. But now the world has one less snake in it. And that's enough for me.
After dealing with Hornigold, Edward meets with Roberts and they set sail towards the Observatory. Once they enter the Observatory, Roberts explains how it works, but regrettably, betrayal would strike once again.
A precious tool, you see. Sorcery, that's what it is.
Not so.
Every mechanism that gives this device its light is a true and physical thing. Ancient, yes, but nothing supernatural or strange.
We'll be masters of the ocean with that.
Oh, such ambition.
Roberts would turn over Edward to the British for the reward on his head. Edward was then taken to a prison in Kingston where his friends Mary Read and Anne Bonny were also being held. The Templars met with Edward to get the location of the observatory. After declining the Templars' offer, Edward was left there to rot for a few months before being liberated by Atabai, who had come to liberate Mary and Anne. Edward made his way through the prison and found them, but had to carry Mary due to her being ill from childbirth, but regrettably she would pass away. Edward then took her corpse towards Atabai and Anne, and there Atabai would return his robes even though he had not yet earned them. After Mary's death, Edward fell into despair and grieved her death by getting heavily drunk and hallucinating all the friends he has lost. Later, Adewale finds him and quits being his quartermaster to join the assassins and tells him to meet him there when he's ready.
Jesus, Ade, what the hell happened here?
You happened here, Edward. The damage you caused 6 years ago has not been undone.
I'm not an easy man to call a friend, am I? Is that why you're here?
To fight beside a man so driven by personal gain and glory is a hard thing, Edward. And I have come to feel the assassins and their creed a more honorable cause. Have I been unfair?
No. For years I've been rushing around taking whatever I fancied, not giving a tinker's curse for those I hurt. And yet here I am, with riches and a reputation, feeling no wiser than when I left home. Yet when I turn around, look at the course I've run. There's not a man or woman that I love left standing beside me.
There is time to make amends, Captain Kenway.
Mary. Before she died, she asked me to do good by her, to sort out the mess I made. Can you help me?
Edward is now ready to seek his redemption and start his path in becoming a true assassin. Edward now knows he must rectify his mistakes and kill the Templars and hopefully one day find the Sage again. After killing several high-ranking members of the Templars, Edward learned the location of Roberts and went after him. Having killed the Sage and fulfilling his dying wish, Edward takes the Observatory school and uses it to find Governor Torres. When Edward travels to Havana to kill Torres, he finds out that it is a trap, and that the real Torres has gone to the island where the Observatory is. Edward returns to the Observatory, dealing with all the Templars in his way. After making his way through the Templars' defenses, Edward manages to kill the Templar Grandmaster. With Edward learning that his wife has passed away, it is revealed that he has a daughter. Edward eventually meets his daughter and sails back to London to join the British assassins. Eventually, Edward would remarry and have a son who he names Halem. Edward's story is one full of passion and conviction for what people desire, but it also comes with a price of tragedy and loss. For what is the profit of man if he gains the whole world but loses his own soul in the process? It took a very long time for Edward to realize that his ambitions and desires to become rich and wealthy from the Observatory were wrong. He lost a lot of his close friends, even the women he loved and left behind. All of this was necessary for Edward to put his ambitions to better use into becoming a true assassin. If you guys enjoyed this video, consider becoming a subscriber and leaving a like on the video, and let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.
Of all the money that e'er I had, I spent it in good company, and all the harm that e'er I've done, alas, it was to none but me. And all I've done for want of wit to memory now I can't recall. So fell to me the parting glass. Good night and joy be with you all. Oh, all the comrades that e'er I had, they're sorry for my going away, and all the sweethearts ere I've loved, they'd wished me one more day to stay. But since it falls unto my lot that I should rise and you should, I'll gently rise and softly call. Good night and joy be with you all. Good night and